Us. We still have people coming in, but that's okay. We'll get started. We have a couple of housekeeping things to do. Then we will get right to our presentation as quickly as possible. So, our topic tonight: resume and interviewing tips for social science and healthcare majors. I am your host. My name is Mark Schappert. I'm an employer relations partner with Southern New Hampshire University Career Services. And I'm so excited to have presenting for us tonight Carissa Hendrickson, who's a sourcing specialist in human resources with Sanford Health. And Sanford Health, if you didn't know this, is one of the largest health systems in the United States. It's headquartered in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and it has locations in 26 states and 10 countries. So this is a large organization with obviously lots of healthcare opportunities, but also positions for that social science majors could very well be interested in. I pulled these off our Handshake account, and you can see what you would expect, some healthcare related positions, but you're also going to see social services coordinator roles, child life specialist, medical social worker, lead social services coordinator. Great roles across the board for those that are interested in helping in the healthcare profession. So, uh, let me share with you. I have to read part of this to you anyway. This is our access and accommodations statement at Southern New Hampshire University. Our experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important. Your experience, our experience, but your experience too, is important to us. It's our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this presentation's design or delivery that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the Online Accessibility Center if you're an online student, the Campus Accessibility Center if you're a campus student, or Human Resources if you are a SNU staff or a faculty member. So this is the last picture we had taken of our career services team, and this goes back, geez, at least three years ago or so. We have added about another 50% of staffing to this department. And so we have lots of folks out there who are ready and willing and waiting to assist you with your career preparation and your career launch. If you're looking to start a new career change, or simply your job search, or perhaps an internship search, and all the things that go into it, resumes, interview prep, all of that. So please note the phone number on the slide as well as the email address. And if you send an email, it will be forwarded to the person who is designated to be a career advisor for you, and they will get back to you within a day or two. So take note of that information. You can also connect with us. There's the phone number and the email address again, but you can connect with us on all your typical social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. So, and as well as the SNU Connect Learning community. So just a couple of housekeeping items or notes to share with you. All attendees' cameras and mics should be off for the beginning part so that we can concentrate on what Carissa is sharing with us. We do want to field as many of your questions as possible. So while Carissa is presenting, feel free to type in questions into the text box, and after Carissa shares some information with us, we'll get to as many of those as we can. If you have an important question, and a lot of times people have similar questions, so if we don't ask your exact question, listen for the other questions because we may be answering something very, very similar. But if for some reason we don't get at something that's really specific to you, feel free to send it to me. I'll answer it if I can. We have a team of career advisors. I can reach out to Carissa if it's something she needs to answer. So we don't want anybody to go away feeling like they had something that wasn't attended to. And lastly, I want to tell you we will be recording the session tonight. So keep your camera off the whole time. Well, certainly at the beginning, but even later on when we have questions and answers, if you don't want to be seen, don't turn your camera on. So the agenda is pretty simple. We're going through the opening remarks right now. I'm going to turn it over to Carissa in about 30 seconds, and she's going to share a bunch of tips on resumes and interviewing, along with advice from her seat as a recruiter in human resources. And then we hope to have about 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. That is the plan. So, Carissa, I am going to stop sharing as of right now, and you can share your screen, and I'll let you know once we see it, and then you can take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. My
I see
slides
it.
are coming. Okay.
There they are. Very nice.
All right. I think we're good to go. So I'm going to just check one thing here before we get started. Okay, give me 1 second here, Mark.
No worries. Take your time.
Okay, can everyone see my slides?
I don't think so because
Not yet?
I'm not
Okay.
seeing them at the moment.
I'm gonna try sharing again, okay? Bear with me here.
Sure. Uh-huh.
All
Yes.
right. Okay, thanks everyone.
Now, it doesn't matter to me. There we go. Now you're in presenter food. I was just going to say we could see them, but you weren't in
Perfect.
presenter. Although, there we go. Perfect. Now they're displaying perfectly.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for your patience, everyone. So, as Mark said, I'm Carissa Hendrickson. I'm with Sanford Health. I support recruitment of behavioral health and those social science roles. I will have this QR code to sign in at the end, but I will be giving away a gift card. So, it's great to sign in with us. And again, as Mark said, if you have questions after today, would love to connect with you. So I'm going to talk about resumes today for, again, social science and healthcare majors. And again, there are many ways to craft an amazing resume, and this is just one perspective. So creating a top-notch resume is critical for moving past that first look stage and getting employers to really consider you as a potential candidate. According to the website Career Builder, which most of us are familiar with, about 25% of hiring managers spend less than 30 seconds looking at each resume. So at Sanford Health, I can tell you that we do not use resume keyword scanning software. It's known as applicant tracking systems. So your resume is first reviewed by an actual person called a talent advisor, and they decide whether to move forward with a phone screen. Then your resume will be passed along to the hiring manager for a virtual or in-person interview.
Hey, Carissa, I'm sorry. Just want to jump in real
Yeah,
quick. Um, so we're seeing the presenter view. If you have two
okay.
monitors, the other monitor probably has the full slide. It, it, if 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 that's a problem making that transition, it's not a big deal, but I just thought I'd let you know.
Okay. How's
Perfect.
that? Okay,
Now
thank
we're
you
seeing the
so
other one.
much,
Yeah.
Mark. Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
No worries, no problem.
Thanks for jumping in.
Yep.
So what I wanted to share on this slide is probably really familiar for many of you. Again, walking through these sections, we really include your education at the top. So again, the school you're attending, your degree, if you have multiple degrees, your graduation date and expected grad date, and then listing your current degree first. Some other recommendations include relevant coursework, an internship if you've had one, any certifications that you're looking to complete or that you have already completed, and then any special research that you've been a part of or if you have been published. Some work history, list your current position first, and then highlight any leadership experience that you've had. We recommend listing all of your job titles and dates of employment. So some employers look for a month/year of your position, while others only require the years that you were employed there. So it's really important to check. I know some state or county positions in social services look for exact dates of employment. So if you're not sure what the employer requires for a resume, be sure to reach out to them. It's always good to ask. And then be honest about the things that you've done in your positions. I think that's really straightforward, but there's always applicants that like to elaborate. And so it's good not to do that. And then any community involvement that you've been a part of within social sciences and the healthcare industry, there's a lot of great professional associations to be part of. So it's really important to research those things if you haven't belonged to them and join them. They're great resume builders. And then include any volunteer experience that you've had, any awards or honors that you've received. And then we also recommend that social science and healthcare majors create a LinkedIn profile. And this should be in the top section of your resume under your contact information. We're really looking to interview people who are motivated by growing and advancing in their careers. So this means optimizing your professional network. I will also add that many healthcare recruiters are using LinkedIn to search for candidates. So again, it's great to develop that profile on LinkedIn. All right. Next section, just some resume reminders, things that are good to do. So, when reviewing a candidate's resume, as recruiters, we're really looking for skills, qualifications, experience, or qualities that are most important for performing the job. There's no rule that says, the first section must be work experience. So, for many positions in healthcare, you may wish to list your education first, whether you've graduated or your program is in progress. And you don't need to include the year that you earned your degree necessarily, but the longest you'd want to keep that date information is about 10 to 15 years at the most. Like your work history, anything that happened more than a decade ago may not be as relevant as your current skill set. So list any licensures you hold or anything that is in process. It's important that recruiters really don't need to over analyze or examine or dig through your resume to find those details about education, work experience, and licensure, or you will not be moved forward to the next step in the process. It's also crucial to incorporate keywords from the job description into your resume. So it's important to make sure you're applying for a job that you're qualified for or in the process of obtaining those specific qualifications. So, from the job description, you'll usually find more than just those technical skills that are needed for the job. In healthcare, there's a lot of positions, everyone requires strong communication skills, ability to work in a team, and other soft skills that they're usually listed as well. So, experiences like volunteering may not be directly related to the position you're interested in, but you can definitely still find ways to highlight some of those soft skills. And volunteer opportunities speak to your creativity, your flexibility, compassion, resourcefulness, and other soft skills that behavioral health professionals must have to work effectively and empathetically with patients, clients, and residents. And always use present tense when describing your current position and past tense for previous jobs. It's sometimes easy to confuse the two. So be sure to have an advisor, professor, family member, or friend proofread your resume to really make sure that there are no grammatical errors. And we advise keeping your resume between 1 to 2 full pages at the most. So if you have little experience and you're kind of struggling to include enough content, consider mentioning those courses that you're enrolled in, any volunteer work that you're doing or have completed, or even hobbies, but only if you can find a way to relate them to the job you're applying for. And lastly, we recommend not listing the phrase references available upon request, because listing that phrase takes up valuable real estate on your resume. So for most healthcare professions, it's assumed that you will need to provide references at some point in the hiring process. And resume don'ts, again, a lot of these are just good reminders, but when writing your resume, be sure to consider your audience. When sticking with a simple format, that is usually best. So simple is not boring. We like to say black and white text, clean lines, a consistent font is really what recruiters are looking for. We advise not using a bunch of colors, graphics, or flashy templates off the internet, as these make your resume stand out in not a good way. If you do use a template, though, be mindful of spacing and fonts, and be sure your information is saved in that template. It's also important to always save and send your resume in a PDF document when you're applying to positions. So again, Microsoft Word, sometimes there's formatting issues, and if a recruiter gets your resume in a document, there's always a chance that it could be, edited or something to that extent. So always use PDF, and there's some conversion tools online that are no cost if you don't have Adobe on your computer. Our recommendation is to not include a headshot or a photograph. However, I do know some countries prefer that candidates include that when they're applying. So again, if you're not sure, be sure to just reach out to the human resources team. And remember, it's always good to return to your resume regularly, to update as needed, and really take a fresh look at your content. Um, think of your resume as a living, breathing document. So return to it often. Keep, a journal or a sticky note on your computer of just things that you're doing in your schoolwork or in your current employment position, so you can keep track of those things and add to your resume every now and then. Now I'm going to segue into interviewing. So, interviewing again is um, something that we cannot practice too much. And there's a lot of, again, perspectives on how to have a good interview, different interviewing tips, questions you should ask. So, again, this is just one perspective. But hopefully, this will help you as you are interviewing for positions, or if you're practicing with one another on having a successful interview. So, an interview again is really your time to shine. It's an opportunity for an employer to get to know you, get to know your career journey, your goals, what you're looking to grow into in the organization. It's time to really, again, spell out your experiences and qualifications. Explain to the recruiter and the interviewer why you'd be a great contribution to the organization. You'll have a chance to verbally tell them why you want the position. Obviously, you were compelled enough to apply for the position, and it's a huge achievement to get an interview for a job. So it's also a time to ask those critical questions to learn more, not only about the position, but the culture of the company. So remember, you are being interviewed, but you're also interviewing the company to see if it's a good fit both ways. And then we always like to say on our team, an interview is a conversation. It's really important to make a good first impression. So, um, an interview, we like to say at Sanford, really starts when you click submit for a job application on our website. So again, you're submitting your resume, and hopefully, you've spent a lot of time on your resume. You've had it reviewed. Maybe you included a cover letter. Those things, really make an impression. So again, your interview is kind of the exclamation point of making that good first impression. So types of interviews, again, this really varies in the current culture that we're in. We have screening interviews like a lot of healthcare organizations, and the screening interview can be done in person or over the phone. So it just depends. And in either case, the screening interview determines if you are going to get the green light to move on to the next phase of the interview process. So even though a screening interview might not feel as important, it is important. Candidates are being reviewed not only by their resume, but also how well they do in a screening interview. And then a phone interview is something, if a screening doesn't take place, maybe the recruiter or hiring manager will call you for a phone interview. So before the phone interview, it's always helpful to confirm all the details about the call. So, usually that's communicated to you through email. So make sure that you're checking your email regularly. I know a lot of healthcare organizations use text messages nowadays. So make sure you're checking your text messages. And I would also say be sure to have a professional voicemail set up. So again, if a recruiter or a hiring manager calls you for a phone interview, and they'll leave a message, it's always good to have a professional voicemail set up. And just from experience, when I'm reaching out to candidates, it is kind of surprising how many people don't have a voicemail set up, or maybe their voicemail box is full, or they just have kind of a puzzling voicemail setup. So again, I don't want to understate that, the importance of that. But before the phone interview, make sure you have all those details, including the date, the time, if it's a different time zone. So again, I'm in Central Time Zone, but I know, when I'm contacting candidates all over the country, it's really important for both of us to confirm, what time we're actually going to connect. And then also, who will you be talking to? So again, that's really important that you know all those things, and be sure you know whether the interview is calling you or if you need to make the call. So again, using a quiet, comfortable, private space is important. And be sure to have your resume to refer to, and that's really easy to do when you're, on a phone interview. Just have it in front of you. Keep a short list of, your skills and why you're really excited about the position. This will really help you respond to those questions without fumbling for your words. So, I want to move on to the virtual interview because I feel like a lot of interviews are done virtually nowadays. And so it's important to enter the video chat or the room promptly at the start set time or even a little early. So make sure you have the correct software loaded on your device. So again, Sometimes you need to download that prior to, and you don't want to be frazzled trying to do that right at the start of the interview. Make sure your devices are well charged and consider doing a test run with a friend to work out any of those issues. And we always remind candidates, make sure you dress professionally. Even if you're interviewing from your home, it's kind of obvious to do that, but it will really make a great impression on the interviewers. So be mindful of your background, of your home or wherever you are, and make good eye contact with the camera, staying focused and engaged. So we discourage candidates from doing virtual interviews from their vehicle or public transportation. And if something comes up where you are not able to interview, make sure you notify those people that contacted you as soon as possible to reschedule. We understand life happens, there's emergencies that come up, and more than often, your interviewers will have grace and want to, reschedule with you. All right, now I'm going to segue into the in-person interview because there's a lot to cover there. So before your interview, these are just some tips to prepare. I feel like, a lot of these are reminders and pretty obvious, but researching the company is just incredibly key. Be sure to review the company's mission, vision, and values. I can't put a number on how many times we've asked candidates, can you tell us how your career journey and your goals might align with our mission, vision, and values, or what do those mean to you? And they're not really sure. And while that question is maybe a little bit more complex, it makes such a great impression when you've done your research and the interviewers can see that. So reread the job that you applied for. Again, make a little list of your skills, professional, personal qualities, those things that are most important for the job. So, maybe as you're going into your interview, you've got your portfolio, a folder organized with some of these things. It's kind of nice to have that bring something tangible in along with your resume. And then be ready to describe those things that make you the best match for the job. Read the company's website, look at their social media presence. Most healthcare organizations are on all of the social media channels, TikToks, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Talk to any personal connections who may have worked for the company. So again, you can research people on LinkedIn and see, maybe you have a connection, someone that's working there now or previously, and then prepare some questions for your interviewers. So again, it's a time to really ask them some things that are important to you. Another thing, again, reviewing typical interview questions. You can find a whole host load of questions on the internet of things that you will most likely be asked in an interview, and you can't practice them enough. So it's helpful to answer them out loud if you're by yourself or with a friend. And then know your resume. It sounds kind of simple, but again, make sure you have a good grasp on what you put on your resume. And then dress for success, dress for comfort, wear something that you feel confident in. And remember that the interview really starts at the moment that you arrive on location or that you click to enter the video feed. So all of these tips apply to any type of interview. On the day of your interview, you should have really prepared enough in advance. So your main focus is just to remain calm. And then during the interview, I wanted to touch on a couple things that opener that we all can we can find a time where we've been asked, tell me about yourself. That question is kind of, maybe obvious, like, well, a recruiter should have, read my resume or the hiring manager should know about me. But really, what that question does is it helps hiring managers accomplish one of their major goals during the interview, it's getting to know you. And so it's helpful to practice kind of an elevator speech or your response to that ahead of time so you can answer that question as concise as possible. So a simple formula that I like to use, present. So talk a little bit about what you're currently doing. Maybe you're employed or you're a full-time student or a mixture of both. If you are a student, you can share what inspired you to pursue that field or that future profession. And then you can mix in a little of the past. So, walk the interviewer through your career or education journey, use your resume to do that, and then any experience that's relevant to the job you're applying to. And then lastly, mix in some of the future. So, segue into what you're looking to do next, why you're interested in the role, and why you're a great fit for it too. And then behavioral interviews, I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because one simple method that we use with candidates is called the STAR method. And it's an interview technique that gives you a straightforward format that you can use to tell a story by laying out the situation, so that's the S, task, that's the T, action, that's the A, and result is the R. So situation, task, action, and result. And situation stands for setting the scene, so giving necessary details of an example. Task, describe what responsibility was in that situation. Action, explain exactly what steps you took to address it. And result is share what outcomes your actions achieved. So, again, types of those interview questions that are behavioral in nature, make sure the STAR method kind of helps your brain stay focused and tie together, again, a situation, the tasks, the actions, and result. And by using those four components, it's much easier to answer a focused question and then provide an answer to the interviewer with a collection of memorable stories. And then the question, why are you interested in this job? Again, kind of seems obvious to some people because, obviously you're getting the interview, you must be interested in the job, but your answer really must reflect an accurate understanding of the job. You need to sound sincerely invested in the job and interested in doing the work. And make sure you sound interested in the job, not just the company. Like, I'm using this for a stepping stone. Connect your answer really to your experience and your passions, your career path, and your goals. So let your personality shine. And just a couple things there to make yourself stand out. Answer questions with those stories. Be yourself and just take your time and remember to breathe. This slide just again gives a couple points of how to tell your star stories. So, where to draw from to tell your stories. So, all of these things, or some of them, might be outlined on your resume, but it's kind of a collection or word bank of, where to pull those stories from. So, everyone's stories are different, but it's helpful to practice those stories out loud by yourself or with a friend. And then questions to ask the interviewer. There's a lot of content on the internet about this, but I highlighted or bolded some of the ones that I really like when candidates do ask. So, again, there's some duties, structure, culture. I really love when candidates take time to ask about the culture because why does the interviewer enjoy their work at that company? Obviously, some people may have worked there for a short time or they've been there for decades. And what really keeps them there? What's in the culture that they really enjoy their work there? They could work elsewhere. And then how does the organization or team promote and practice self care? I know within social services, there's often a lot of stressful times. And how does the team band together and support one another? I know at Sanford we do a lot of an acronym called PI, which is Processing Impactful Events. So, again, with our social work teams, behavioral health teams, they're constantly working together to really support one another through those stressful times with patients and residents. And then, other nice to knows, why is this job available? I think that's great if you ask that. Is it a new position? Is the team growing? What opportunities are there for growth and professional development? Many healthcare organizations have a lot of incentives like sign on bonuses, but they also offer education assistance. So maybe they will pay for you to get certified in different things or different techniques in your profession. Maybe they'll even fund additional advanced education. Maybe they'll be able to send you to conferences. Those are great investments in an employee. And so it's really great to ask that. And you might not be able to find it on their website. So it's always good to ask. And then the mission and vision, asking about those strategic goals and diversity initiatives. Those are always great questions as well. All right, and then lastly, after the interview, make sure you get the contact information of who you spoke with. So we usually recommend sending a personalized thank you email the next morning, not necessarily the same day, although some people, just kind of want to get it off their plate so they don't forget to do it. But it's kind of nice to have some time to really reflect on how the interview went, what stood out to you. A thank you email versus a card or a letter is always preferred. And then in there, just remind them why you're the right candidate for the job. Include a couple takeaways if you want from your interview. Write down any key points from the interview and then be patient. Remember that, the process does take time and they might not get back to you right away, but it is just good to hang tight and give yourself grace. Don't beat yourself up if the interview didn't go as you had practiced. Oftentimes, we're a lot more critical of ourselves than things actually unfolded. So, just some good tips for after the interview. And then I just wanted to share with you all. So, as Mark mentioned, we are located primarily in the Midwest. We do have a footprint heavily in North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota, but we do have positions all over the country in the states in the light blue. These are some of the positions. He had some from Handshake. I work with the master's level prepared therapists and counselors as well. We also have social work positions and some other roles. So, again, it's really exciting. Behavioral health is such an incredible profession, and there's just so many different directions to go with it. So, I hope these tips about interviewing and resumes were helpful to you as you continue your education and your career journeys. So, again, I just want to, that was not my profession. So, I want to thank all of you for, again, going into the field. It's just really exciting to think about what all of you are going to be doing someday or what you're currently doing. And if I can be of help with, reviewing your resume or if you want to do a mock interview, I'm again part of a very big team. So any of us are here to help, and our passion is really just helping students get the answers they need as well as getting them where they want to go. So with that, I will hand it back to Mark.
Wow, thank you, Carissa. Lots of information in a pretty condensed amount of time. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, maybe you want to get a drink of water or you just roll up your sleeves because I got questions for you. Ready? Um,
Okay,
all
yes.
right. And so, folks, I want to tell you to feel free if you'd like to type questions in the chat, and we will take them as they come in. So, okay, I'm going to paraphrase some of these, so take me just a minute to read. And okay, someone asks, are you supposed to list your references on your resume?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say to not do that mainly because the recruiter or the hiring manager may ask for those at a later stage. Often that's part of different verifications that they might be doing after some of the interviews. So I wouldn't include them on your resume. It takes up space that you could use for other things. And then, if you want to ask when you're being interviewed or screened, would you like a copy of my references? Sometimes it's nice to, if you're in a in-person interview, to have like a hard copy of your references on a sheet of paper so you can say, oh, here's my references if you would like. But oftentimes they will be forthcoming and ask for those at a later time. That's a great question.
Perfect, thank you. So this is one person's particular situation, but chances are it's going to apply to more than one person in the audience today. So this is regarding job titles and dates. I've had several titles and positions with my current employer. Should I list each individual position and the dates that I was in that position?
hmm That's a really great question. And I'm sure some people can relate to that. I know I can relate to it. So it's nice to list your position or whatever positions you've had with an organization with a few bullet points under each one. So the recruiter or hiring manager can see the responsibilities you've held at each role. And it does show the progression oftentimes or the movement that you've had at that employer. So I would absolutely list each job title that you've had and then just a couple, maybe 3 bullet points under each one with a summary of, some of those highlights. If you can quantify with any numbers like metrics or things that you've done in any of those roles, but I would absolutely include all of your job titles at that same organization.
Very good, thank you. Uh, this person had shared that he or she's been at their current company for 15 plus years. How can they make their resume stand out among others?
Hmm. Well, I think longevity, just again from candidates that I've talked to, longevity says a lot. When you've been with an organization for a long, a good period of time, it's going to allow you on your resume to really, hone in on some definitely more bullet points than just 3. I would, really focus on maybe 10 bullet points. And again, really, think about through the years some of the leadership roles that you've held or the accomplishments that you individually have had or your team has had, how you've grown and contributed as an employee over the years. But I think, again, speaking to that longevity as a seasoned employee really comes across. As marketable to your interviewer. And I know that you'll have probably some outstanding star stories in those behavioral interview questions because you'll have a lot of experiences to draw from. So it might take a little bit more time to reflect on thinking past the last decade, how can I, what accomplishments have I had, or how have I contributed to the organization? But really take your time and showcase all that you have lent to that organization. So I hope that's helpful. I always think so highly of those individuals that have really invested a lot of time at a organization.
Thank you. That's very reassuring. As someone who was at a place for a
Ah,
long time, it's nice to know that there's certainly a positive aspect that employers see to that. Um, well, we're kind of on a theme in terms of being at a place for a period of time. So this next question is: I've been working a position for 20 years. Uh, However, at many different companies, I do not want my resume to be 3 pages. What do I do?
hmm. So I would probably start with, again, you know, cutting out trying to use that process of elimination to the best of your ability. And like I said, I mean, this is one perspective. We usually encourage candidates to do a 1 to 2 page resume. But if you feel like you are not able to articulate all of the things that you want that organization to know about you on a resume, and you need that third page, I wouldn't discourage you from including it. There's a lot of different professions, including, the social sciences, where there are, certain individuals where you've held a lot of different positions that are really going to set you up for, a great review from a recruiter, and you might need extra room to articulate that. So I would say, again, connect with your advisor at the college. They have a lot of experience with resumes, and, try and seek some feedback from those professionals and have them take a really close eye and see what they think. People are very honest when it comes to resumes, and we all want each other to succeed. So I would say, you will probably have a gut feeling if you can cut things out of your resume or not, and then really seek that the expertise from your academic advisor. That's what I would do.
Perfect. Career advisor, but yeah, we have academic and career
Yeah,
advisors. So for the resume,
perfect.
contact the career advisors. And I love the fact that you're not saying it's a total black and white thing. Never in
Right.
any circumstances should there be a third page. Well, occasionally there should be, but a lot of times
Mhm.
you get an objective, uh, a person who's objective and who knows resumes, and they can help you shorten it. So,
Yes.
yeah, thank you so much. Um, so how do I highlight how my skills could be a great fit for a business analyst role when I do not have applied business experience? I'm assuming this is a
Mhm.
person who's studying business or data analytics. So again,
Mhm.
without having worked in that role before, what would you suggest they do?
Well, I was talking to a candidate on Tuesday at an event, and they were really seeking kind of something similar to that example. So I think a lot of people can relate to that. What I would do is go to the job description. If you find a position that you think I really want to be doing that job, someday, or, soon, I would go in the qualifications section, and I would jot down, what hard skills are they looking for? What software are um, they're requiring you have experience in? And there are so many resources nowadays that are, really at no cost. I know Coursera is one. There's a lot of different, educational, certifications you can earn on LinkedIn. So, if you can gain experience by using some of those resources, and gain, the experience and certifications that you need for those roles, I would start there. I would really tap into, I feel even to like the local library is kind of overlooked as well. But really, delve into those resources so you can gain experience in some of the hard skills that they're looking for. Because if you don't have the hard skills like the degree or the certification or the software experience that they're requiring, you won't probably be moved to that next step. Um, if you can show that it's in progress, that's better than nothing. So I would really seek that out and try to gain experience in those things, even though you have not held the job title.
Great advice and information, Carissa. I would certainly echo that as well. And one more thing, there's I don't know if you've heard of this, Carissa, but there are a few organizations out there that are doing this now, but one that's been probably a leader is a company called Parker Dewey, and they
Mm.
have online remote micro internships that students can do in all kinds of different areas. So it's basically it's going to be a small project, and typically they're looking for folks who can apply what they've learned in the classroom
Mm-hmm.
and do a project over a course of a couple of weeks, and there's a way for you to get some experience when you can't fit it in any other way. So Parker
That's
Dewey
awesome.
for micro internships, and I'm sure they have data analytics or business analytics projects up there. Um, so let's see. How about what do you do if you've been a stay-at-home parent for over 10 years? And I think I saw somebody else type something in for 15. So,
Mm.
and certainly, again, we probably have several in the audience tonight. But what do you do if you've been a stay-at-home parent for 10 years or more and you're now in school? Uh, how do you put that on a resume? And how can you work with that reality to get an interview?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think to kind of related to that, a lot of us have maybe had gaps in our work history. Maybe the pandemic interrupted your employment, or you've had other different breaks in employment over the years. But being a stay-at-home parent or a caregiver is one of the most important jobs that's out there. So I would say, candidates that I have visited with or I've seen resumes will often just put homemaker or, stay at home parent or caregiver on their resume with the years that they've been at home. And I think, the interview, if you go on to that next step in the process, um, it's an opportunity for you again to have practiced some of those star stories. And there's a lot of stories that you would be able to tie together from, balancing time management, commitments, with your children or those that you're caring for. There's a lot of wisdom and skills that you've developed during that time away from maybe the workforce or a profession outside the home. So I would just say don't be discouraged. I mean, there is just so much you can lend to again, really marketing yourself on your resume, including some of those soft skills that you're bringing to the table. um, you know, again, brushing up on maybe some of those hard skills like different computer software, Microsoft Office Suite, if you don't know that. Um, that software, other things that are mentioned in the job that you're seeking. So I would say listing homemaker or caregiver on your resume with the years would be totally sufficient.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very helpful, yes. And we had a panel of employers on Monday for another program, and they said essentially the same thing. Just put it on the
Yeah.
resume. Let just
Yes.
you'd rather see it as a
Yep.
recruiter than wonder why, why is there eight
Mm.
years that, aren't accounted for? So yeah, put it on
Yeah.
the resume.
Yes.
Um, let's see here. Oh, so this is a very specific question for someone, but I think it's really fascinating. So she
Mhm.
says, how do I translate my patient care experience into quantifiable metrics?
Hmm. Wow, that is a very specific situation. Well, I think it might be helpful in that case. Well, if the person is still employed, maybe you could sit down with your supervisor. I think a lot of healthcare organizations, I know, within Sanford, we really look to promote our people and help them get to where they want to go. And so, if you're looking to articulate those quantifiable details in your resume, I would maybe, sit down with your supervisor, or a lot of times, um, healthcare organizations, we have like career coaches within Sanford, and they might be able to help you articulate, different details within the role that you held. Um, I'm not completely sure with that specific role, if well, whatever role you're seeking beyond the patient care position, if they would require, different metrics or things like that. But it is an interesting question, and I would maybe start with asking, your leader or someone within your organization how they might go about doing that, or if it's really important to your resume. Um, and then maybe even asking the career advisor at your college how to go about it for that specific position you're seeking.
Absolutely, yes. Um, so we have a few questions that are similar to previous questions.
Mhm.
And so somebody asked, I've been in a position for 10 years. Should I list previous jobs to that? And um, you talked about that a little bit, but maybe you could
Yeah.
speak to that quickly.
Yeah, I would, you certainly can go beyond the 10 to 15 year threshold, I guess. There's no right or wrong way to doing that. I've seen many resumes, and people, sometimes it feels like you're maybe shortchanging yourself if you don't include every job that you've held over, your
Mm,
lifetime. But at the same time, I would say you're not discounting yourself if you, include the last decade, or, the last 15 years, because you can absolutely draw on those previous experiences in an interview or even in your cover letter. And I think cover letters are, sometimes candidates choose to include them because maybe you have had a gap in your work history. Maybe, you've had even some situations in your background, like, if you have a legal background, and that, oh, there might be something that could come up in my background check. I kind of want to articulate that in a cover letter. And maybe too, even if you've had that experience as a homemaker or caregiver, those are all things you can articulate even more in a cover letter. But I would say, you know, if you get to that next step, you can absolutely draw on those experiences beyond the 10 to 15 years in the interview. But it's totally up to you what you wanna include on your
Yeah,
resume.
again, they're guidelines. They're guidelines. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, you have to be flexible depending upon the situation. So we're pretty much at the top of the hour. Uh, do you have one piece of advice
Mhm.
on just the whole job search process? You've talked specifically about resumes and interviewing and all that, but you want to
Yes.
have one final piece of advice you could share with our folks,
Absolutely.
participants?
Yes. Well, the one piece of advice I would have for, all of you, the diverse group of majors and interest areas, I would say if you can take the time to do informational interviews, any job shadowing, reach out to those organizations that you're interested in. And I guarantee you, people love talking about what they do at their job. And so that's going to really help you hone in on, what interests you have, what matches your personality and passions within those niches in your future profession. Take the time to reach out to the organizations and ask to do a 10-minute informational interview with someone in the job that you hope to have someday.
Awesome advice. There's so many benefits.
Yeah.
You've met somebody in the field that you
Yes.
want to go in, and you can learn things that you can then convey in interviews and show, wow, this person really knows their stuff. They know what they're
Yes.
going for. So great tip and great
Thank you.
information, great advice. Thank you so much, Carissa. We really
Yes.
appreciate it, and thank you all for joining us tonight. And again, if you have any needs that go beyond what you were hearing tonight, or the things that we addressed tonight, contact us at COCE Career at snhu.edu, and feel free to email me if you'd like, and I can always get a hold of Carissa, and maybe you can even reach out to Carissa on LinkedIn. You should be using LinkedIn. It's really a good tool. So Carissa, thanks again, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Thanks,
Appreciate it. Thanks
everyone.
for being
Thanks,
here
Mark.
tonight.
Thank you.
So long, everybody.